Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Neshaminy School Board's Act 34 hearing. Tonight's meeting is being held today, August 18th, 2022, at 7 p.m. in the boardroom of the District Administrative Offices at the Maple Point Middle School campus for the purposes of a second Act 34 hearing for the proposed new elementary school at Maple Point. I'd like to start off by giving you a brief explanation as to the purpose of an Act 34 hearing and the need for the second Act 34 hearing.
Slide 2, then we're moving on to slide 3. Now this is slide 3. Wow, there's lots of good information here.
Oh. An Act 34 hearing is required by the provisions of Section 7-701.1 of the School Code. It is applicable when the school district desires to construct a new building or substantially renovate or enlarge an existing building. Act 34 requires the school district to conduct a public hearing at least 30 days prior to submitting its initial building cost estimates to the Department of Education. And as such, the Neshaminy School District Board conducted its Act 34 hearing on December 2nd, 2021. Under the school code, if after the Act 34 hearing, the final bids to be submitted to the Pennsylvania Department of Education are 8% higher than the initial estimate for the maximum building construction costs, then a second public hearing must be conducted. Unfortunately, the $34,621,642 maximum building construction costs approved by the board in October of 2021 were exceeded by 8% after the bidding process. More specifically, due to various factors outside the control of the district, between October of 2021 to April of 2022, the approved maximum building construction cost increased from $34,621,642 to over $40 million. Thereafter, the board rejected all bids and refined the scope of the project and intends to rebid the project later this year. Please understand that the costs, which are the subject of this discussion, do not include land acquisition costs, site development costs, utility cost to the site, and/or professional costs related to the project. As previously mentioned, this hearing will follow very closely with the booklet identified as Exhibit 3, which will be made a part of the record. The testimony given will be highlights on various aspects of this exhibit, since the testimony is summarized within the context of the second Act 34 hearing booklet. In addition, I want the public to understand this is not a public board meeting or committee meeting where there will be a back and forth dialogue between the board and the audience. This is an official legal hearing required by the Pennsylvania School Code, as represented by the fact we are required to have a legal stenographer in attendance. No board vote will be taken this evening. As previously stated, this is a mandatory public hearing for the purposes outlined and to inform the public of the financial aspects of the proposed project. Lastly, I wish to note this is not the first time the board has communicated or invited the public to participate in discussions regarding this proposed project. Over 2 years, the board has sponsored several committee meetings that were advertised and open to the public for discussion and had the Act 34 hearing on December 2nd and associated public comment. In addition, board members have spoken about the project during public board meetings, and there have been newspaper articles in the Bucks County Courier-Times outlining the new elementary school project. At the conclusion of the testimony, the public in attendance will be granted an opportunity for public comment or testimony. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Allen. At this point, I'd like to set forth the exhibits for tonight's Act 34 hearing. Exhibit 1 is the transcript and all exhibits from the December 2nd, 2021 Act 34 hearing, which are collectively marked as Exhibit 1. Exhibit 2 is the resolution dated July 26, 2022, establishing the new elementary school at Maple Point project with a maximum project cost of $51,861,741 and a maximum building construction cost of $40,824,159, along with fixing the second Act 34 hearing date and directing the preparation and distribution of the project description booklet. Exhibit 3 is the second Act 34 hearing booklet that Mr. Allen mentioned earlier. Exhibit 4 is the Act 34 requirement, or proof of the Act 34 requirement that the hearing booklet be sent to the Bucks County Courier-Times, which was done on July 27, 2022. The booklet was mailed, and that proof is attached as Exhibit 4, which is the certificate of mailing and the FedEx delivery confirmation on July 28, 2022. Exhibit 5 is the Bucks County Courier-Times proof of publication dated July 27, 2022. For notice of tonight's hearing. Exhibit 6 is the affidavit of the superintendent for posting the notice of hearing held tonight, August 18th, 2022, at the board meeting room. The last exhibit, Exhibit 7, is the affidavit that by Dr. McGee, excuse me, that the Act 34, I'm sorry, McGee. Sure. The affidavit by Dr. McGee that the booklet for the Act 34 hearing was available here at the administrative offices here at Maple Point. Next, I would like to make an announcement that residents and taxpayers of the district have through and including Monday, September 19th, 2022, to submit to the school district written testimony regarding the proposed project as described in the booklet at Exhibit 3. As a point of information, I would also like to point out that tonight's hearing is not a scheduled board meeting, as Mr. Allen had previously mentioned. We're here presiding over a hearing. There will be no action taken by this board this evening. There will be no dialogue. This is an opportunity for the public to be informed of the project, for members of the public to provide their comments to the school district on the project, and to inform the public about the difference between the estimated project costs and that of the actual cost of the project following receipt of bids earlier this year. So at this point, we're moving on to the next part of the hearing. There's three witnesses, Mr. Downey from Spiesel, Dr. McGee, and Mr. Irwin. If you could, I guess, please stand and be sworn in at this point. Okay, so moving on to the project history and need for construction, Dr. McGee.
Thank you, Mr. Tarente. Going back pretty far, Neshaminy once consisted of 10 elementary schools, 4 middle schools, and 2 high schools. Over the course of decades, as the community shrunk, not the physical community, but the student age population, the board began to shrink our footprint, rightfully so. The roadmap to the future has been around for about 2 decades as we passed through the district multiple times in decommissioning schools and redistricting. The latest pass was through Lower Southampton, where we took a look at our facilities and their capacity to be efficient and maintain education, and it's been probably 8 years. In the Lower South end of the district, we took a look at Lower South Elementary School as far as what it needed to come up to specs as far as a physical plant and the educational environment inside, and the board decided that at that time, one, the community had recycled and was now growing again instead of downsizing, and it was probably best to decommission Lower South Elementary School and build what we now have as the new Tawonka Elementary School. So fast forward to the most recent pass, we're in the center of the district in Langhorne, and the building of focus was Pearl S. Buck Elementary School, opened in 1968. Taking a look at that building, our professionals determined in pre-pandemic, pre-inflation, pre-gas price dollars, it would take roughly $12 to $13 million to bring the physical plant up up to specs. And then educationally, Ms. Burkhalter and I sat down and redesigned the building to get it up to educational specs as well. And that would take what our experts, our professionals thought was another $12 to $13 million. So we're at $24 to $26 million pre-pandemic, not pre-pandemic, but pre all the price escalation. And that was compared to the cost of putting a new building somewhere. In addition, we continue to grow as a district, and though everything was well-to-do at the time that we shrunk, now we need additional space. So the idea of a new building, adding some additional classroom space, merited the look at that. Probably the most important part of all this was that to renovate Buck, you would have to renovate the school for 3 years around kindergarten through fourth graders. And those of you who've been around for a while remember we tried that for 6 years at Neshaminy High School, and it wasn't the best plan for those 6 years, though we do love that building. So the decision was made, instead of renovating for 3 years at that cost, it was more prudent to start new, and we are here now to hopefully try to finalize that. And once we're done here, we're going to move to the Levittown side of the district and do the same thing, take a look at our facilities there, decide whether they can be renovated, brought up to speed, or is it more prudent to decommission something and put something new up. So we're on our multiple passes through the district. We're in the center, and hopefully going to move to the Levittown side as soon as we get this one going one way or the other. Mr. Trente, that's all I have.
Thank you, Dr. McGee. We're up to part 4, which is Scott Downey from Spiesel Architectural Group. I think he has a presentation or part of the booklet to present. Scott?
Thank you. So, as Dr. McGee indicated, the enrollment or the size of the district student-wise was looked at. On pages 8 and 9 of the booklet, you have projections that were previously generated by the Pennsylvania Department of Education. Those are shown here on the screen. The district also commissioned its own demographic study. This was performed by Statistical Forecasting, LLC, in May of 2021. This study contained enrollment projections that were developed based upon 2 scenarios. These 2 scenarios considered the impact of COVID-19 enrollment 2 different ways. Model 1 considered an equal weighting with all data years, and Model 2 considered the current COVID-19 impacted year. Again, this was occurring in 2021, with a reduced weighting. The district evaluated, and the projections based on scenario 2 were utilized. Those numbers appear in the booklet on page 10, and they are shown here on the screen. So current enrollment at the time, 8,991 students. The 5-year projection at the time was for 9,625 students. With the information in hand on Buck and the projected enrollments, several options or scenarios were considered by the district in terms of how to address the growing enrollments. The first was the district did study what we'll call a minimal impact baseline scenario. This scenario would not have added any space to the district. It would have strictly dealt with nuts and bolts and upgrades for the physical plant buildings. Option scenario 2 focused on the possible expansion of Pearl Buck and the costs that would be involved in that and the impact. And scenario 3 considered the replacement of Pearl Buck Elementary School with a new elementary school. Option 3 ultimately was selected to be pursued by the school board, and that has led us to the project we're going to present this evening. On page 17 of the booklet that you have, there is a site plan. Just to describe briefly what you see on the screen. Upper right corner, you'll see a gray area, which is the Maple Point Middle School, currently the building in which we stand right now. The entrance to Maple Point Middle School, there are 2 of them to the site. They occur to the right-hand side of the plan and to the lower side of the plan. The proposed elementary school is to be built on the left-hand side of this plan, so below and to the left of the existing middle school as it's shown. Entry and main entrance to that school would be to the lower part of this plan, And parking areas would be constructed there to support traffic, student drop-off, teacher parking, and so forth. On pages 18 and 19, you have floor plans of the building with each of the spaces labeled. Just to take you briefly through the plan that you see here on the screen, which is shown on page 18. To the lower right, item number 15 shows the main entrance to the building. To the right of that, you have spaces such as the media center, art, and music classrooms. To the left of that entrance, you have the main office and the nurses area. To the top part of the screen, directly opposite that entrance, you have the dining cafeteria area, kitchen, stage, gymnasium, and mechanical space to support the building. The main entrance is to the bottom of the plan. The upper part of the plan is where bus drop-off would occur, and you have an entrance in the center of the courtyard where students would enter having exited the buses. The building is configured around five, what we'll call learning communities, and two of those are shown in this floor plan, each of which contains a series of classrooms, both general classrooms and open flexible classrooms, teacher support space, small group instructional space, and other ancillary space providing storage, bathrooms, and other functions. So there are two pods on the left-hand side of the plan you see here. This is the plan that appears on page 19 of the booklet, and there are three of those learning pods or communities shown in this plan. This is the second floor of the proposed building. Again, each pod is configured in a similar way, containing a mixture of classrooms, both open space, flexible space, and general instructional space, small group instructional space, teacher support spaces, storage rooms, bathrooms, and so forth. Mr. Irwin?
Good evening. My name's Donald Irwin. Yes, my name's Donald Irwin, I-R-W-I-N. I'm the business administrator of the Neshaminy School District. And the district analyzed four methods for financing the project for the proposed designing, construction, furnishing, and equipping renovations to the new elementary school. We also estimated the direct cost of financing as required by the Department of Education regulations issued in November 4th, 1978. The four alternatives of financing examined were cash or short-term loans, general obligation bond issue, a local authority issue, a financing through the State Public School Building Authority. The analysis of the school district's financial statements for recent years and projections prepared in connection with this project indicated that the entire project could not be paid with cash. The school district did not have the funds necessary to pay enough cash for its share of the project, nor did it appear that the school district would be able to raise the required amounts from the anticipated cash flow to meet the proposed construction schedule, particularly considering the other needs of the school district, facilities and projects and capital needs. So then we analyzed in detail the three existing alternatives that would provide the school district enough for the project to incur the long-term debt. For each alternative, it was estimated the bond issue size and calculated the average annual debt service requirements. We then constructed a repayment schedule assuming equal annual payments over 20 years at current interest rate levels for the general obligation, local authority, and state public building authority bond issues. Financing costs for the local authority and state public school building authority were slightly higher, which resulted in a larger bond issue and the higher average annual payments. In addition, the State Public Building Authority requires the district to turn over the title of the property to the State Public School Building Authority, which was not in the school district's best interest. Interest rates on revenue bonds are slightly higher, and interest rates that would be received on general obligation are slightly higher than interest rates received on general obligation bonds. This resulted in higher annual debt service for the State Public Building Authority and local authority issue, therefore making the general obligation bond the school district's best option. And in fact, the school district went to the market and financed bonds and closed that deal in March of 2022. When we reviewed how we got to the total amount of debt incurred, we estimated the cost of the construction-related costs of $49,313,273. We had contingency and supervision of $2,089,290, and we had cost of issuance of $459,178, giving us the total cost of $51,561,741. We anticipate interest earned on the deposits of the bond issue of $659,625. We are anticipating federal stimulus ESSR funds, ESSER funds of $5 million. We are anticipating cash contributions from the school district's fund balance of $2,227,094. And we issued these bonds at a discount. Therefore, while we have $39.5 million of actual issuance, we received an additional $4,475,022 on original issue discount, giving us total discounts of $12,361,741 and the face value of the bond of $39,500,000. The school district is considered other ways to reduce the debt service and local effort needed to fund the project. The school district implemented a wraparound structure of the 2022 bonds in order to take advantage of the drop-off in old debt service, which minimized the millage impact. And you can see this takes place in the year 2038 in Table 1 that I'll refer to in a moment. The school district has been approved to use approximately the $5 million of the ESSER stimulus funding to help offset the local effort and to relieve the local taxpayer from millage impact. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. The school district should also use $2,227,094 to fund the project to further minimize the necessary borrowing for the district. And the school district provides Table 1 on page 32 of the booklet to reflect the actual wraparound amortization schedule to be used in the project. And again, the total obligation bonds series of 2022 are $39.5 million. The school district does not anticipate receiving any reimbursement from the state on this project due to the planned condo moratorium that is currently in place. In addition, as a direct result of the completion of this project, it is only reasonable to assume that there will be additional indirect costs associated with services to be provided to accomplish long-range objectives of the school district. Yes, as a result of the completion of this project, it is only reasonable to assume that there will be additional indirect costs associated with services to be provided to accomplish long-range objectives of the school district. The business office has estimated the annual indirect costs associated with the project to be $50,000 for additional insurance. Assuming a collective mill currently provides $775,000, the indirect costs will have a millage equivalent of 0.06 mills annually. The total millage equivalent for the project, assuming taking into consideration the wraparound debt service that has been issued, is 2.25 mills. And plus the 6.06 mills, the total millage impact equivalent is 2.31 mills. And those mills have been raised by the school district in the current fiscal year. That's all I have, Mr. Trente.
Don, could you just briefly go into the difference between the estimate project costs and the actual cost of the project following receipt of the bids back in, I think it was March or April?
What would you like me to explain again?
Just the difference, like the actual, the project cost that was set late last year and then how the bids came back.
Well, when the project cost set at the first Act 34 hearing, the bids came in approximately 22% higher than our estimates, and that's why we're here today, because of the escalation in costs that the school district encountered in the current bid market. The contractors are trying to ensure that they are covering themselves for escalation. We're currently in an environment where we have 10% CPI, and so we ran into quite honestly a market that we didn't foresee totally the impact of that, and so our bids come in much higher. Therefore, we had to regroup and go back at this. We have made changes to the project to try to reduce the the cost. We've estimated we've reduced the cost of approximately $3 million in scope using value engineering, but we are prepared to make this happen with our current financing in place, going out to bid again.
Okay. And if the project cost back in April, if it came in, under 8% of the original cost, we wouldn't be here tonight. Is that
That's correct. Under the school code, we were here tonight because of the 8% threshold in the bids. Once they exceeded the 8% threshold, we were required to have a second Act 34 hearing.
Okay. Thank you, Don. So at this point, we're going to move into the public comment section of the hearing. I don't believe there were any pre-registrants for that portion of the hearing. So if there's anyone from the public at this point that would like to make any comments with respect to the project, now's your time to come up to the podium. You'll be limited to 3 minutes, approximately, if you would like. Okay. Okay, I'm seeing none. At this point, I would like to enter into the record exhibits A1 through A7. I would like to further announce that residents and taxpayers who couldn't make it tonight have until and including Monday, September 19th, 2022, to submit to the school district written testimony regarding this project to Jennifer Burns, Board Secretary at the Superintendent's Office, 2250 Langhorne Yardley Road, Langhorne, PA 19047. Please address to the attention Act 34 hearing on the envelope and include your name and where you reside. At this point, Mr. Allen, I believe we're ready to conclude and adjourn the hearing. If there's no one else that would like to make any type of comment from the public, I believe a motion at this point would be appropriate to conclude the hearing.
I would like to make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Kovitz. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Motion passes. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone.